This will probably not be a long video, but I just wanted to share something, heaven's kind of communication with me. Yesterday afternoon, for some reason, all of a sudden I had this thought. And it was, if you look back at my lives, I was told by heaven, basically, I was reminded of something I always used to say, that in everything you do, always leave room for heaven to do something. And I had been reminded that in a journey and was basically told to step back and do the things that I wanted to enjoy life and let heaven take over for a while. And so I did. And what dawned on me was right after I did that, the whole situation with Mike Butler in town exploded. Mike Butler is the younger brother of Chad Butler. Chad Butler is second in charge of the Shelby County, Iowa Sheriff's Department. Mike Butler got busted for selling meth to kids and having sex with kids. And now the parents are in trouble because I guess they hid a video. I guess there's a video. And they also threatened their granddaughter to prevent her from testifying. And everyone in town knows it. And it just has kind of exploded all over town. And I thought, wow, that's kind of weird. Some people would call that a coincidence. But because of where I stand, I felt like I was being shown a blessing. And I don't know if it was my sister Cindy on the other side who gave me that idea or that thought because I started thinking about it. So I thought about it yesterday but didn't think too much about it, just appreciated what was going on. So I go to bed last night and I wake up this morning and lately it feels like heaven is like downloading things into my head. It's like I'm just getting all kinds of information. And I woke up realizing that I'm at a fork and there's two things that could possibly happen and they're both extreme. One, they could bring me down because their directed energy weapon bullshit is awful. It has been absolutely miserable. And they could bring me down. But then the other pathway that I was shown in my sleep was that I win the lottery. And I thought, wow, well, that's bizarre. I mean, talk about two extremes. What about, I mean, because heaven doesn't usually deal with money issues. I mean, some people will say that there's blessings, but the whole prosperity gospel is bullshit. It's a whole gospel based on greed. It's false prophet, you know? And so, happy birthday, Beatrice. So, I was thinking that kind of is extreme. What would go on? So I started thinking about it this morning. And then all of a sudden I realized if I won a bunch of money, I wouldn't buy myself a mansion. I wouldn't go buy myself a bunch of new cars. What I would focus on is I would hire so many private detectives that it would make Sewertown and Doug Mesner and all of their heads spin. Gabe Hoffman, it would make their minds spin. I would hire as many private detectives as I possibly could, and I would just sick these private detectives and to find out everything about this group. And I realized that that's funny because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. They've done the same shit to me. They just found nothing. They found nothing. And so I was never on Epstein's Island, dumbass. And I've never claimed to be on Epstein's Island. Ever. Stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. I was never on Epstein's Island. Epstein really even wasn't a thing when Franklin was going on in Omaha. Epstein wasn't even a thing, you know? Didn't say anything about being crazy. Oh, it's the crazy guy who thinks he was on Epstein's Island. Dude, you realize you just typed it and now you're contradicting yourself. You're just making yourself out to be a liar. You know? Does it hurt to be so stupid? But that's what I realized. So I guess one of two things is going to happen in my life. Because heaven never shows me stuff like this without there being a reason for it. But I have been bitching. I have been praying. I have been journeying. I have been bitching because I'm sick of the limbo. I'm sick of them being able to do whatever the hell they want to me. And I can't do anything. And so it will be interesting. But I will tell you, today sucks. It's the third. Well, it's the second. But I got my disability. And after paying bills, fuck, I'm broke again. You know? I think I have $75 to make it through the rest of the month. And I haven't bought dog food yet. And so I'm sick of it. I'm sick of this. And they all dance around saying, oh, ha, ha, you don't know. And I have a feeling that heaven is going to give me the opportunity to find out. I think heaven had a lot to do with Mike Butler. That was why I was told to take just sit back. And I've been working on the house. I've been working on artwork, living my life. I'm not even focused on Sewer Town because I know heaven's dealing with it. From what I understand, and this did come from Thomas, who heard it from his people, Lucian Greaves, a.k.a. Johnny Dub, is now hanging out in Sewer Town. You know, founder of the Satanic Temple. But Siren is Skills, a.k.a. Emily Thorne, a.k.a. Kara from Free Range Humans. They've been in there all the time. It's just now he's, you know, he feels that he's untouchable. That whole conversation has pissed me off. Because he's right. In so many ways, he has been untouchable. And it has been frustrating to deal with this. And I just think that heaven is getting ready to once again flip the script. And so I just have this weird feeling. Again, everything that you do, always leave heaven room to do something. Happy New Year, Smokey. I've been celibate for 14 years. But people asking about what sex acts I've been doing, it's kind of disgusting. You know? I'm 59, gonna be 60 years old. I don't think anybody wants to hear about an old man's sexual proclivities when there really are none anyway. You know? So that's all I wanted to say. You know, when it comes down to it, I think that no, I don't have to register. But thank you for bringing that up, dickhead. Because since all these people are saying, oh, I'm worried about pedophiles, what happened with where are Mike Butler's flyers? This is what they hung out all over my town. This is what they hung out in my town. This is my address. So this is what they put out. You know? If it's about pedophiles, and I have no history, no record of pedophilia whatsoever. But Mike Butler does. Where's his flyers? You know? Where's his flyers? Because it's about pedophilia, all right. Oh, it's about pedophilia. They're fucking hiding their child trafficking operation. And they're all in here now. Because Sewertown sends all of their dumbasses. Doug Mesner is sending his satanic temple idiots. Because they're using the satanic temple after school daycare to actually focus on the kids. Hey, Susan. And so, you know, and the whole thing about it is these flyers, Neil Gross was basically telling everybody that I wasn't being attacked. It was all in my head. I was paranoid schizophrenic. These flyers helped me in ways I can't even begin to imagine. I can't even begin to explain. Because now everybody knows that there's a concerted group after me, you know? And so this group, and they surround me. They surround me. I think, like I said, if investigators want to investigate, definitely investigate me. And who's reaching out to me and who's doing shit to me and who's interacting with me. I think it all needs to be researched, and then you need to look at all those people. I think you need to investigate me. Flat out, you know? No, there are no victims. There are no victims. I'm not a pedophile at all. I've only been trying to expose a pedophile ring, which they're all in here trying to say, oh, well, what fucking difference does it make? If I was a pedophile, then you should investigate all the people that I'm saying, because don't birds of a feather flock together? So either way, it needs to be looked at and investigated. Either way. Investigate me and everyone who's reached out to me. Find out who Johnny Dub is. It's not like the dickhead hasn't emailed me over and over and over for damn near 2 years. And I know exactly who it is. Dougie. All involved with this child trafficking bullshit. All trying to shut me down. You know? And it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. And heaven said, take a step back and always leave room for heaven to do something. The minute I step back, this shit with Mike Butler has now exploded. All over town. So the second in charge at the Shelby County Sheriff's Office, they're all being investigated. No, they're not, Susan. They are not the sharpest tools in the drawer. All they are is conniving, evil motherfuckers who think that they're stupid shit. You know? They haven't slashed my car tires, but 2 years ago, I believed that the Shelby County Sheriff's Office paid this idiot woman to slam into my car when I was in the car with my sister and I. We were out garage sailing. And the reason why I think that it was the Shelby County, Iowa Sheriff behind it is, for one, it happened and nobody had time to call anybody. And all of a sudden, 3 sheriff cars came from 3 different directions. They didn't charge the woman. And the policeman that they had do all of the report, because I obviously had to report it to insurance. His name was Brandon Gosh. No, I do not think he was related to Johnny Gosh. But I think that Neil Gross was using the opportunity to send Brandon Gosh to do the paperwork, because they knew the minute I read the paperwork, that name would stand out to me. But Brandon Gosh quit the Shelby County, Iowa Sheriff's Department. When I went to go pick up the paperwork, he and I ended up having a conversation for about an hour. And he realized that I was a good guy. And he found out that all the Shelby County, Iowa Sheriff Department is corrupt. They're selling drugs. Exactly, Susan. What are the odds? What are the odds? He quit because he was a legit guy. He quit almost immediately afterwards. I kind of figured that he was just like, there's no way you're pitting me against this dude, because they all know what I'm like. I think that they did it. And then right after I got my car back and I was driving my car just to the gas station, lived here for 3 years and never been stopped once. I got stopped by the police and all they wanted to know was I driving the same car? That's what they wanted to know. And I was, you know? Isaac Cappy was my friend and they murdered my friend. When they murdered Isaac Cappy, I will say, I closed down. I was tired of this for about 4 years, 4.5 years. I was still dealing with shit in Erling and then in Harlan, but I wasn't dealing with anything. Tracy Twyman, I didn't even know. I had to find out about her after I got involved. And all of this started when I journeyed and was told to open up my comments and start talking about Isaac. And so that's the reason why Fiona and Barnett and I do not talk. She's mad that I will not let it go. I won't let it go. How she feels is she tried to expose Isaac Cappy and she failed. So therefore I should just give up. And I don't feel that way. I feel like I've actually really made progress. I think that I've made headway, even though a lot of times it doesn't feel that way. Despite the stress. Do you know what it's like to get $1,000 for disability and then the same day have less than 100 left? And again, I haven't even bought dog food. It sucks. And yet here I am still. Here I am still. They'll call me a grifter, but I've paid for a blog since 2011 on my own. The extended version of Rabbit Hole, the book that I wrote, is on there for free. I wrote a book, paid 14 grand to publish it. It's found on Amazon. Got nominated for Book of the Year when I published it. I paid $4,000 for a Kindle version of my book. I haven't even come close to getting my money back on any of that, on any of it. I do videos. I have a documentary. Isaac did not unalive himself. It doesn't take the dude the day before did that Periscope video and said he wasn't suicidal. And if something happened to him, he didn't do it to himself. And then the very next day, the next morning. So what went on that he said he wasn't suicidal and if something happened to him, he didn't do it to himself? What changed in a scope of 18 hours? Just like Tracy Twyman. And there's more to know because Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple, sent me an email saying, oh, well, Thomas Schoenberger was talking to Tracy Twyman. Do you think it's a coinkydink? But, dude, I would believe just as much that Lucian Greaves, Doug Mesner, is involved with the murder of Tracy Twyman, who was afraid she was going to be hurt. And then the next thing they know, the next thing everybody knows, she hung herself in her garage. Isn't it interesting how many people commit suicide who try to investigate this group? Wow, it's just like bizarre, the numbers. What are the odds? Corey Daniel Dowd, Craig Sawyer, they were the ones who took him out. They were the ones who were involved. They were the ones who have always been involved. They're the gatekeepers now. They want everyone to think about something else, But let me tell you, neither Tom Hanks nor Oprah Winfrey was on that fucking bridge that morning. But by his own admission, Corey Daniel was there. In one form or another, the story just keeps changing. I have a feeling that God is going to open up a door. Because let me tell you, I think heaven wants to have fun with them now. This break has done me good. Even though if you watch the last few videos, I have been quite pissy. But, I've been quite pissy. But that's why I think heaven has like embraced me. Susan, there are people who know we can feel the miracles happening. You know, God is opening doors, blessings. This whole thing with Mike Butler was a blessing to me, you know, because people know now, and they're hiding pedophiles. That's what Neil Gross has been doing this entire time, hiding pedophiles, protecting these pedophiles. They blew up the Erling, Iowa gas station. He lied for him. I know that Doug Mesner, aka Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple, was heavily involved with that. He was sending me emails attacking me really hard for 3 years. When I moved from Algona to Erling, Iowa, the very day after I moved in, took possession of that house and was in Erling, I was getting emails from him saying they were already set up in Erling. The protection order that they got out on me on Kent in Algona, all 15 videos, all those videos that are listed on there had absolutely zero to do with the petitioners. Nothing. They only and solely dealt with Doug Mesner, aka Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple. If there wasn't a connection, how would that even be possible? And now he's going as Johnny Depp and he's laughing, saying he can't be touched. He can't be touched. And maybe not. And they think it's funny that I'm poor. They think it's funny. But you want to know what? Heaven always seems to watch out. Someone always helps, or something comes through. I really started thinking that maybe in these videos now, what I'm documenting is proof of God's miracles. Because you guys are seeing God work in my life in a way that is not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. And to be quite honest, not having to fight with these people makes me into a nicer person. And I've had to rethink Thomas. I kind of feel bad because for 2 years, but he was working with Johnny Depp and I knew who Johnny Depp was. But I now don't think he knew. He never met the dude, And you can be whoever you want online. Fuck, you can be whoever you want in real life. I've been duped more than once. Oh my God, I've been duped so many times. Because a lot of times, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I want to see the good in people, Because I care about people. I care about all of you. I have never met you, and yet I care about you guys. I think we all care. I think that we all care about each other. Empathy isn't just exclusive to me. There are plenty of us who are still empathetic, still have complete hold over our humanity, are still human. Our hearts have not gone to stone. That's what's been so difficult about this whole situation, isn't it? Not only do our hearts not stone, there's a bunch of us who care to the point where it's painful all the time. It's painful to watch people go through what they're going through. I just think that we're all out there. But I feel better now that I've come on here. I just got done paying all my bills and I was so stressed out that I just decided, I'm going to come on here and talk about God. because I knew it would make me feel better. You know, utilities have gone skyrocketed. Plus, I had to pay for the one thing that just killed me this month is I just had to redo my car. You know, the reason why that Phoenix Enigma thing on Sean Atwood's show was so similar to one given before on Rumble is because it was the same one given to Rumble. It was simply a repeat. Go on YouTube and type in Johnny Gosh and see how many things come up that are all brand new about Johnny Gosh. And they all have like 160, 200,000 people views on it. Same thing with Jacob Wetterling. There's a reason why. If you are an atheist and yet you still have your heart full of love, you're still loving people, you're still having acting, I think you'll be fine. You know? Because all of that just is connected to the stuff that I'm involved with. My father and the group that he was involved with were involved with Johnny Gosh. They were involved with Johnny Gosh. My brother was involved with Johnny Gosh. You know? I don't know how you guys make it as atheists. You know? But some of the best Christians I know are atheists. Because religion is designed to turn people off of God. That's really what I firmly believe. You know? You get involved with it. That's why I don't go to church. I don't go to church. You know? And so I know atheists. If you're a good, decent person who cares about other people, you know, the whole point is about living the word. And living the word is loving life and appreciating life and loving everyone around you. That's what the word is all about. And just because you're Buddhist or just because you're Muslim or just because you're Jewish, just because you're Jehovah, well, that's more of kind of a big. If you're following the word and you love life and appreciate life and you're not full of wanting something that you don't have, always wanting other people's shit, being okay and then loving other people, you know, that's peace out, Smokey. Why did the atheists throw the clock out the window? I don't, you know. And that's just it. You know, taking care of people, respecting your parents. That's, you know, following the word. Jesus Christ didn't want us to worship him. He wanted us to worship the word, practice the word, live the word. And so, because when you're doing that, your heart's not going to turn to stone. That's the problem. So many people's hearts are stone. They don't give a shit. You know? Love. Love is the word. As trite as it may sound, love is the word. You know? Whenever two or more are gathered, exactly, Susan. That's why I do these lives a lot of times. Because I know people watch afterwards, but all the people watching, especially when I'm praying, if people actually end up praying with me, sometimes my prayers suck. I'll say that, you know? I'm not always on. But I do believe in I believe in the teachings of Jesus. I believe the teachings of Jesus Christ are infallible. I think that it's exactly the way it works. That's what I believe. The teachings of Jesus Christ are infallible. I'm not going to argue the rest of the Bible, you know? I'm not going to argue the rest of the Bible. I have questions and concerns about all of it myself. You know, see, dude, you've just irritated me, so you're done. I just think, you know, and we're here to support each other. And I think that in one of these reasons why, yes, I do believe that if Jesus Christ's teachings, if they were practiced the way they were supposed to be, the word is not meant to be used either as a sword or a shield. How can you have a sword and shield and humility at the same time? That's, I believe that Jesus Christ showed us the way. That's Christ consciousness. Exactly, Susan. You know, I believe that Jesus Christ showed us the way. I'd much prefer to love than hate. Hate is exhausting. Anger is exhausting. You know, I know the context of why he came. I know the context. I know the context because where I'm at spiritually and what I've gone through, being raised by Luciferians, having all of their rituals on me, being bound to the dark under the age of 10, from when I was conceived up to the age of 10, having these idiots pledge their souls to me, in so many ways, it hasn't, what I've had to do has not been about forgiveness. That's why I say, in a lot of ways, heaven has expected me to be almost the antithesis of Jesus Christ, because my role here, doing what I'm being told to do, is more about accountability, and in that accountability comes retribution. And but what you guys are seeing is, but I'm not inclined that way. I don't necessarily trust Thomas Schoenberger just because of everything that we were going through. But the fact that we're not at each other's throats and I'm not having to deal with that, with him being ugly to each other day in and day out, has been a relief to me. It has. Now, I've had the question, could it be possible that he's just changing tactics? Anything is possible. Anything is possible. What difference does it make? All I care about is that I'm not having to be a dickhead every day, because it gets exhausting. And when you're a dickhead when you have to be a dickhead to people, it's hard to just feel good about life. You know? What ends up happening, no God will forgive or punish people. What will happen is that your own actions, energy begets energy. If your heart is filled with dark, you will be claimed by the dark. Energy begets energy, and we're close to the reaping. We've been in judgment for a while now. You know? That's the reason why we've had this celebration of hate. Because if you're inclined to hate, you're celebrating your hate now. And it's not going to serve people well. We are at the end. And now I'm starting to wonder if what I do in these lives now is to document God's miracles in my life. Because I've had a lot. Susan just said she's had seen 3 in her life this last week. That's what I'm saying. Heaven is working miracles now. For those of us who are inclined to fight for heaven, it's the time to stand. It is the time to stand, to live your faith. And that's difficult because things are rough. But I'm telling you, they could be a lot rougher, and we're meant to stand. And I think that what I'm doing in these lives now is documenting heaven's work in my life. I just think I am, you know, to give people hope, to give people hope, because we all have heaven is within us, you know, heaven is within us and all around us. God's grace surrounds us every breath we take. What's lacking is our awareness and our acceptance. And in a lot of cases, our obedience. Because, you know, if you want corn to grow, going to the bars and dancing all night and then sleeping all day isn't going to make that corn grow. Do you know what I'm saying? The only thing to make corn grow is to go out and do the work, plant the seeds, till the soil, plant the seeds. It's an analogy, but it's the only analogy I can think of right now. But I think that we're all meant to support each other and give each other hope. And that's what I'm hoping that I do in these lives, is that I'm giving people hope, you know? Because let me assure you, heaven exists. Heaven exists. And it's amazing. And it's wonderful. And it works miracles in our lives. Be sure of what you hope for and certain of what you do not see. It's the whole definition of faith. The 8 Beatitudes. Read what Jesus Christ said. All of it is happening, you know? Sometimes miracles happen in front of you and you just kind of look at it as coincidence. God told me to take a step back and let heaven take over for a while. And the next thing I know, second in command, Shelby County, Iowa Sheriff Chad Butler's younger brother is getting busted for selling meth to kids and having sex with kids. And now it's all starting to become unraveled. Because now, especially with the parents, now they want to know what the sheriff's office knew and why they did nothing. And who's involved and where did the meth come from and how is there's a lot of questions that are now, people are actually looking into it. It's all a miracle. Yeah, you could say, oh, it's a coincidence, but coincidence after coincidence after coincidence becomes a pattern. And when there's no other explanation, when it's not a coincidence, that's when you have to realize that it's a higher power, you know? Jesus was not a demon. And I'm not even going to entertain such foolishness. With that said, I'm going to pray and get off of here. My dogs still have food for a while, so I don't have to leave right away today, tomorrow. So I'm going to work on stuff. I've been working on the house today. This afternoon, I'm going to work on artwork. It's the only way I think I can get myself out of this situation is start doing the stuff that I need to do, and my artwork, I think, will do something, hopefully. Maybe not. I don't know. All glory goes to God, and I serve heaven every day. Heaven isn't trapped in a book. It's not, I don't look at It's not a fairy godmother. It's not a genie. And for me, all glory goes to God. That's how I feel. You know, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for miracles. I would have been gone a long time ago. It's not like they haven't tried to take me out over and over and over and over and over because they don't want me exposing my family. And Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple, Dougie, has been working with my stepmother, Joanne C. Shurter, for a lot of years. If you look into my stepmother, you will find connections to Doug Mesner. You have to ask yourself, why is there a connection? And I'm speaking to authorities who I know watch these lives. You know, it's not the quantity of people who are watching my stuff, it's the quality of people who are watching my stuff. And so, with that said, I'm going to pray. Heaven, Father, and Mother, I come to you. Brother, Jesus Christ, you came and we couldn't have asked for a better brother. You taught us all the word, gave us hope, lived a life that we could exemplify. And thank you. We humbly and joyfully and with incredible gratitude thank you for showing us the word, coming down and actually showing us the word. Life is difficult right now. The future is uncertain. And the prospects can be scary at times. But we just ask for you to guide us and direct us and help us grow in a way that all of heaven can be proud of and that we ourselves can be proud of. And I just want to say thank you. It's hard to be grateful when you're full of want. And even though I don't have an abundance, I always seem to be able to get through and have enough. And I am grateful for that. I'm upright. I'm still fighting, still trying. And for that, I'm grateful. And I think many of us who listen to this prayer will feel the same. We love you and we say these things, our brother, your son, Jesus Christ, in his name. Amen. So, that's all I have to say. As you can see, I switched things around. I had this fish tank that I've had for years. It only has 2 frogs in it, but they live forever, I think. And it was in a window, and it's difficult to keep clean, so I brought it into my studio. It's Friday. I might do another live this weekend. Why not? Why not? I appreciate the conversation in here. For the most part, sometimes it gets to be taxing, but for the most part, you guys are like really enlightened and a pleasure to talk to. And I just want to say thank you to all of you. I appreciate the people who watch, who care enough to at least keep informed. It makes me feel like I'm not so alone in all of this. Because let me tell you, with everything that's going on, you are the epitome of an angel. I don't know about that, Bluck, but thank you. You guys are just I hope that these lives give someone hope. You know, no matter how heavy the cross is that we have to bear, there's always things to get us through and keep us going. And I'm grateful for that. And I believe in God. And I so believe in Jesus Christ. You know, I am trying to do my best against this evil. Anybody has any suggestions on what I can do better? I'm all ears. But when you think that your enemies are your enemies, I don't consider Thomas Schoenberger my friend, but I also don't consider him my enemy anymore. And it's easier to feel compassion and caring, you know, when you're not focused on someone being your enemy. You don't have to agree with them. You know, you don't have to trust them. You don't even have to like them. You know, I think that that's one of the reasons why heaven compelled me to actually, you know, and Doug Mesner as Johnny Depp was just like, oh, was berating me. Oh, now you trust Thomas Schoenberger, huh? Well, dude, I think that there's a possibility he didn't have a fucking clue who you were and that you were leading him down the primrose path right into the fucking abyss. And I think that that's a possibility. And because I think that that's a possibility, I'm not willing to just negate everything. You know? Could he be an autistic musician who's just focused on this? But that's what ends up happening with people who are on the spectrum. They get focused on something and they become ultra focused. I've known several people on the spectrum. This is just his thing. Is it a possibility? Yeah. You know? And if it's not, and it's not the truth, and he's an evil motherfucker, God will deal with them. You know? It's not my job, nor my responsibility to judge anybody really but myself. I hate pedophiles. I will say that, you know? But is there a possibility that Thomas and I were pitted against each other on purpose? Yeah, I think there's a good possibility. And because I think there's a good possibility, I'm not going to be all, you know, because look at what they've done to me. Look at the shit that they've done to me. So could they have done the same thing to Thomas? Well, they did the same thing to Nathan. They did the same thing to Tracy Twyman. They did the same thing to Isaac Cappy. You know? So, and maybe what you are all witnessing is two people who are at each other's throats can lay down our swords, you know, and actually start engaging instead of battling, you know? Oh, Bluck, the problem with having a gun is that I don't know if I could pull the trigger. And in fact, because I don't know if I could pull the trigger, I'm pretty sure I couldn't. I'm pretty sure I would hesitate. I'm pretty sure I would hesitate. And because of that fact, statistics are most people are murdered by their own guns because they can't pull the trigger. You know? I have faith and trust in God. If it was so easy for them to show up at my house and shoot me dead, they would have done it by now. They've tried to do so many other things. And I really do think that idiot that showed up, that was wearing the hoodie, that had his face all covered, that had his hand in his pocket, never brought out his hand, I bet he had a gun. And then his weird ass girlfriend shows up 45 minutes later, banging on the door, You know? Yeah. I think that if it was so easy, I think they would have already done it, you know? But if it happens, then it happens, you know? Those who seek justice and want justice will be fulfilled. So, you know, eventually will be fulfilled. It's all up to God and God's timing. And let me tell you, I think we can all agree sometimes heaven's timing is incredibly frustrating. But when you consider the fact that one day in heaven is 1,000 years here, you have to look at that and keep that in mind and realize heaven isn't as slow as we hold it responsible for. In fact, there's quite the turnaround. You know, I'm only 59 years old and look at the stuff that's happened in my life. So there's quite the turnaround. Heaven's nowhere near as slow as we want to bemoan it to be. Even though, even though, you know. But with that said, I'm going to get off here because I like to keep these under an hour. And I'm at 51 minutes. So, thanks, guys. Have a blessed day or however blessed you can do. Go out and be nice to someone. Open a door for them. Smile at them. Say hello. You know, acknowledge people. It makes a big difference. You know, you don't know how you can brighten someone's day. And wouldn't you rather be something that people are grateful for having you appear in their lives rather than a detriment? You know, it feels so much better, let me tell you. From personal experience, it feels way better to have people actually, you know, right. Faith without works is dead. You have to actually do the work. You can't just talk the words. And with that said, I need to go see if some people need some help. I haven't stopped there yet today. Payday is always a bad day for me because I end up having money and then I'm broke at the end. It always, the first of the month always sucks for me. It's always just, oh well. It is what it is. All right. Bye, guys. Go check out my blog. The pages above, you can read the extended version of Rabbit Hole, which is called Confessions of an Antichrist, for free. If you want a book, I sell the books. I sell my book, Rabbit Hole, A Satanic Ritual Abuse Survivor Story. My PayPal and my Venmo are just at, and then my first initial D, my last name, Shurter, Shurter. I'll put it in the description. I haven't yet. I'll put the Buy Me a Coffee link in there if you want to donate. Everything helps. It keeps me going to actually do this. Thomas actually gave me a killer idea. He thinks that I should write a survivor's manual as a survivor and talk about their games and how to see their games and understand what's going on and see, you know, because it's not like they ever change out their MO. It's like they got their user manuals from the Stone Age and they're not bright enough to actually deviate from it. So it's definitely an idea. And I know Sewertown watches this, and I know it will just piss off Tara Joyce and all the rest of them to realize that Thomas and I are no longer at each other's throats. Do I trust him? No, not completely. But I also am not completely convinced that he's the boogeyman I made him out to be, or the boogeyman he was made out to be to me. I'm not so sure of that anymore. And if he is, God will deal with them. I don't have to, you know? But things change. Open your hearts, open your minds, and watch it happen.